I'm gonna introduce you to our first panel of the day, which is business opportunities in Central America. In this panel, we're going to cover certain industries and businesses which we consider have more opportunities for investment in Central America and Panama, the benefits of nearshoring in the area, and the support mechanisms and incentives that each country gives to their foreign investors. At the end, we will answer questions from the audience, so please send us your questions through the chat. Let me just remind you, we have the interpretation bottom at the lower end, so please click it in case you need simultaneous interpretation services to be provided. Let me introduce you to our panel of experts. Eric Scharf, partner at Sfera Legal in Costa Rica. Mr. Mario Ernesto Ayala, partner at Sfera Legal El Salvador. And Mr. Gabriel Pallares, partner at Sfera Legal in Guatemala. Welcome all. So let's begin. The first question is the following. In what fields do you find most relevant business opportunities in Central America and Panama? I will give the floor to Mr. Eric Scharf to talk about the Costa Rican and the Panamanian case. Mr. Scharf.
Thank you, Mariana. Thank you very much. I will start presenting first the business opportunities with Costa Rica. Costa Rica has become a leader in the region and beyond, mainly in 4 sectors. First, health and well-being. Second, smart manufacturing. Third, knowledge-intensive services. And fourth, tourism. Probably you have heard that the most competitive advantage to attract high-tech and sophisticated foreign investment in Costa Rica is the highly trained and very well-prepared workforce that the country has. In the last 30 years, the Costa Rican economy changed from just a few agricultural products exported to a few countries to more than 5,000 products exported to more than 150 countries. Exports of goods have a projected growth of 27% as of July 2021, led by medical devices, electronics, and metalworking industries, which have shown a very important increase due to the pandemic. Many of the industries in Costa Rica are actually winner industries in the pandemic. As you know, some of the industries were very strongly hit, and some others are winners like health and telecom, which are industries that we have in Costa Rica. In the medtech industry and life sciences, they continue to thrive, building on 2 decades of transformational growth in the country. Medical equipment and devices represent, listen to this number, 35% of the country's exported goods. Costa Rica is home to 12 of the top 30 global medical device manufacturing companies, including Abbott, Boston Scientific, Medtronic, and some other big companies in the area. On another sector, knowledge-intensive services have grown significantly in the last 10 to 15 years, accounting for 60% of the foreign direct investment projects that we receive. Costa Rica is clearly the leader in the region in Latin America, with a huge difference with number 2 in value-added services such as information and telecommunication technologies and other services. 16 of the top 100 tech companies in the world operate in Costa Rica. And that's why it does not surprise that Costa Rica is the #1 exporter of IT services per capita in Latin America. Costa Rica also provides accounting and financial services, engineering, software, among other services. That's in the service sector. With regard to tourism, and it was mentioned in the previous panel, this is also a very important sector in Costa Rica already for many years, although it was hit very strongly due to the pandemic as everywhere, right? Gladly, the industry is slowly recovering, and most of the international flights we used to receive before the pandemic have already been reinstated. And that's why, as it was mentioned in the previous panel, we are receiving a lot of tourists from Canada and the US mainly. Other important sectors of Costa Rica are the food industry and light manufacturing companies, agro industry, construction, and textiles. But talking about new business opportunities, Costa Rica is in the process of developing a cybersecurity hub. And just to give you a fact on cybersecurity, IBM, for example, has the largest cybersecurity group in the world of the company here in Costa Rica, operating already. Another sector, a new business opportunity, is the hemp and medical cannabis, which is an industry that was just approved by Congress this week, precisely 2 days ago. It was approved in Costa Rica. It was authorized. It's still a process that has to be completed in order for the law to enter into force. But that's a very interesting market, especially because of the development that it has had in Canada. And other business opportunities are biotechnology and new materials, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. As you can tell from the industries I just described, the investment Costa Rica has managed to attract is very sophisticated. More than 300 high-tech companies, out of which 41 are Fortune 500 companies, have operations in Costa Rica. And this is a situation that differentiates Costa Rica from the rest of the countries in the region. Now, moving on to Panama, this country has a very successful transportation, logistics, and storage service sector that contributes to its economy's high growth. It is clear that the Panama Canal is a key advantage for Panama with regard to the rest of the countries in the region. Also, Panama has recently passed laws and incentives to promote investment in the following sectors. First, tourism. Second, agriculture. Third, manufacture. And fourth, industrial activity. In each of these sectors, very aggressive incentives have been placed in areas like taxes, immigration, and labor law to promote and facilitate both national and foreign investments. Gold, agricultural products, and iron are the primary export commodities from Panama, while petroleum products, pharmaceuticals, and vehicles account for the bulk of Panama's imports. Specifically with agriculture, this is a major industry in Panama, and it is responsible for 17% of the country's GDP. The most important agricultural exports from Panama are bananas, shrimp, sugar, and coffee. On the other hand, the manufacturing sector has become one of the largest in Panama in the last 5 years. The main activities are food and beverages, paper and paper materials and products, and metallic and non-metallic materials. And the other very important industry that probably you have heard in Panama is construction, which is pushed forward strongly by the constant constructions in the Panama Canal and civil infrastructure, such as highways and the subway system, in which Panama is definitely a leader in the region. The service industry is the biggest industry in the country, accounting for about 65% of Panama's GDP. And as I indicated before, transportation is the most important economic pillar in the service industry, as it comprises the Panama Canal. Listen to this number: more than 14,000 vessels pass through the Panama Canal each year. And finally, Panama is also very well known for financial services and insurance, which are in Panama other important economic pillars of its economy. Thank you, Mariana.
Thank you, Eric. What I'm seeing is that there are a lot of new regulations and things going on in both Costa Rica and Panama, right? The Investment Promotion Agency is a wonderful example of that, as well as the Costa Rican Digital Nomad Law and the Cannabis Law, right?
Absolutely, Mariana. Definitely the pandemic, which has presented us with very important challenges, also opened the door to a lot of opportunities. And definitely Central America is working very hard on approving not only Costa Rica and Panama that I just presented, and we will hear about the other countries in a few minutes, but the Central American countries are working very hard on taking advantage of those opportunities.
That's amazing. That's impressive. Now let's give the floor to Mario Dalla so that we can overview or listen to an overview about the El Salvadorian and the Nicaraguan case. Mario, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariana. Good morning, everybody. Well, in the case of El Salvador, we have four main business opportunities. The first is textiles and clothing. This sector is one of the main engines for the development of El Salvador. Investing in this sector is quite attractive since El Salvador is positioned as the textile and clothing center of the region due to its proximity to the large competitive markets of North and South America. In addition, El Salvador has excellent logistics and infrastructure and excellent human capital that is low in costs and very high in efficiency. As a second sector, we have the remote businesses services. El Salvador is an excellent nearshoring option for the US, Canada, and the rest of Latin America. This sector is quite attractive to invest in because the telecommunications market is open and competitive. Furthermore, the location of El Salvador makes it share the same time zone as the central zone of the US. This helps a lot to have an efficient response time. And additionally, the law of international services grants attractive tax incentives to these type of companies. Moving on, we have tourism, as well as Costa Rica. El Salvador has a really nice tourism sector due to its privileged geographical location, pleasant climate all year round, and its consolidated and growing tourist demand. El Salvador can offer excellent investment opportunities in hotels, fairs, and convention centers, spas and wellness centers. And actually, we have hosted the Surf World Cup World Cup recently, and several beach soccer World Cups qualifier and tournaments. So in addition to this attractive tourism we have, this sector also has attractive tax incentives guaranteed by the tourism law and the international services law of El Salvador. And finally, we have the sector of e-commerce and electronic money. Currently, and in a certain way, as a consequence of the pandemic we're living in, electronic commerce is having an important boom here in El Salvador. You are seeing many new companies, many new startups that are dedicating themselves to the sale of services, products through electronic commerce, through digital platforms such as apps on smartphones. And this also includes companies that are dedicated to electronic payment or electronic money. Therefore, we also consider this sector as a sector with a lot of opportunity to invest for its continuous growth. Moving on to Nicaragua, the sectors with most relevant opportunities are light manufacturing. The light manufacturing industry is an important economic engine and one of the most dynamic sectors of Nicaragua's economy. Manufactured products account for 45% of the country's total exports by 2018. Additionally, the manufacturing of goods has come a long way in diversifying its processes, becoming gradually more sophisticated and great. And as in El Salvador, Nicaragua has a great human capital with high skilled workers and low costs in this area of manufacturing. Moving on, we also have in Nicaragua a sector of outsourcing services. Nicaragua is a very attractive destination for investments in the outsourcing industry, offering even more specialized and higher value-added services. Among the main reasons of this growth are Nicaragua's proximity, as well as in El Salvador, to the North and South American markets. The nearshoring phenomenon I mentioned before, and which we will talk about further on this panel, its competitive cost structure and the quality of its human talent. Nicaragua's outsourcing industry currently has over 45 companies operating and providing BPOs and KPO services. This industry employs over 10,000 people. We also have in Nicaragua the mining sector. The mining sector has consolidated as an important engine of the Nicaraguan economy, having received more than 1 billion in foreign direct investment in the last 10 years. and generating around 16,000 jobs. The exports of gold, silver have been able to be incorporated into the main goods exported abroad during the last 6 years. Today, Nicaragua has investors in the sector from Canada, Colombia, Spain, United States, among others. Finally, is the sector of agribusiness. Nicaragua is renowned for its tropical climate and fertile soils, ideal for agricultural and forestry use. Nicaragua exports a variety of products in international markets. The country has tariff preference, being competitive with the markets such as in case of the United States, European Union, Central America, Taiwan, among others. In addition, Nicaraguan products have been recognized for their quality as cocoa, coffee, rum, bananas, sugar, dairy, and meat production. Thank you, Mariana.
Thank you, Mario. And this e-commerce boom you mentioned, I'm guessing, was pushed even further by the El Salvadorian Bitcoin law. How are investors reacting to this new law, Mario?
Yes, actually, that's a really an interesting question, Mariana. I will try to be as concise as possible. So, as many of you might know, and it was mentioned before in the beginning of this panel, a few months ago, the Bitcoin law was approved here in El Salvador. Through this law, the cryptocurrency Bitcoin is adopted as a legal tender here in our country, which means that today in El Salvador, the legal currencies are both the United States, the US dollar, and Bitcoin. Now, regarding to investors and what they should be looking out is when a currency becomes legal tender in a country, there are 3 important aspects that must be taken into consideration. I will try to explain them very briefly. First, we have the accounting aspect. Unlike of how it was with the US dollar or legal tender currency, this new Bitcoin law does not mention what accounting treatment should be given to Bitcoin. That is, it does not demand that the accounting of banks and companies, public and private, to be carried out or expressed in Bitcoins. This means that for accounting purposes, the US dollar continues to be the official currency used as reference. A second important aspect is the value given to Bitcoin. When the US dollar became legal tender in El Salvador, a fixed exchange rate was established for the conversion of colones, which was the former currency of El Salvador, to dollars. In this new case of Bitcoin, this kind of fixed exchange rate was not established. And this is precisely due to the nature of Bitcoin, which is a cryptocurrency whose value is determined by the variations and fluctuations of the stock market, and it is not and cannot be determined by the government of El Salvador. And finally, we have a third aspect, that is the payment in obligations and contracts. Well, regarding the issue of payments of previous obligations expressed in dollars, the Bitcoin law enables them to be paid in Bitcoin. For this, the law provides a compensation mechanism to cover the downward that may occur when converting Bitcoins to US dollars. And for this, it creates the legal figure of a trust fund that will apply to the convertibility alternatives that the Salvadorian government uses through its digital app, which is called the Chivo Wallet. So as a quick summary, we can still see there's still much to discuss on this topic, actually. And the Bitcoin law contains certain challenges or some legal loopholes that must be solved or developed more widely. We hope that in the recent future, with the implementation and the continued use of the Bitcoin, those gaps will be solved. Those gaps that the regulation and law of the Bitcoin failed to explain could be solved. By having a better clarity on these aspects, we could say that Bitcoin could be an investment opportunity here in El Salvador, especially for those people who nowadays are really into the topic of cryptocurrencies and blockchain and all that things, and could be used as a crypto asset of investment, which is its true purpose, actually. and with the opportunity to use as a legal tender currency here in El Salvador. Finally, I would like to add that as Sfera Legal here, we always suggest to our clients to review their current contracts in order to verify if they require any adjustment to adapt to this new legal tender of Bitcoin in our country.
Thank you very much, Mario. That is a very helpful advice. Well, I'm guessing it's hopefully that regulation will be passed very soon, and hopefully that regulation will address the concerns that you are mentioning and the loopholes you're mentioning. Let's hear about the Guatemalan and Honduran case that Mr. Pajares will discuss with us this morning. Mr. Pajares, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mariana. Good morning to everybody, and kudos to you. You're doing a great job as an MC. Thank you so much. Well, regarding Guatemala, first, the first and foremost thing is that Guatemala is the largest economy in Central America, with a GDP pre-pandemic of around $77 billion and an average growth rate of 3.5%. It's been stable for a couple of decades. And also the country is the most populous in the region, with around 7 million inhabitants, composed mainly of a young population. So we have opportunities in various sectors. More than half of Guatemala's economic activity takes place in 4 sectors: manufacturing, commerce, services, and agriculture. These primarily focus on the production of textiles, furniture, petroleum, sugar, flour, fruits and vegetables, processed foods, and chemicals. Also, there is a coordinated effort from the government to promote various economic fields in Guatemala. These main sectors are the service sectors, which have specific industries like tourism, healthcare, customer service, banking, financial services, hospitality, communications, retail, etc. This sector alone comprises over 60% of Guatemala's economy. And within the service sectors, well, it has been mentioned, but I'll bring it back to the table because it's important. And Canada has investments in this, the BPO sector, which employs around 45 to 50,000 people. And they offer a wide range of services such as customer service, telemarketing, collections, data feeding, outsourcing, and financial and another kind of services. Another important sector is oil and gas. Guatemala has oil and gas fields. Currently, 5 regions are being explored for oil. The difference with any other sector like mining and the sort is that a law was enacted in 2008 called the Fund for Economic Development of the Nation, FONPETROL in Spanish for short. It has incentives and is billed as capable of benefiting the interests of communities, thus minimizing the problems that we can have with communities. And because part of the funds from the royalties are distributed to the communities, there have to be community councils in development, or COCODES in Spanish, and they can be used for constructing public work, roads, and everything of the sort. So they tend to keep those royalties within the region of the oil exploration. Agribusiness, this one employs almost 50% of the country's workforce, and produce some of Guatemala's largest export products. The main exports are bananas, raw sugar, coffee. We have many more quality export products, including mangoes, avocados, limes, papayas, plantains, and all of the sort. They do very well in the US, Canada, and in Europe. In the manufacturing, we have food processing of tobacco, sugar, publishing, and several others. Another important sector is clothing and textiles. And one that has become important right now is transportation, because due to the high cost in shipping, air cargo is becoming very appealing. So I think it's an opportunity for Canadian Airlines. I know Air Canada has interest in flying to the region. So I think that's a great sector that will become a very good opportunity in the near future. Well, regarding Honduras, the most relevant business opportunities can be tourism. They have a specific law for promotion that contains tax incentives for hotels, resorts, convention centers, tourism transportation services, as mentioned as in Guatemala for air travel or land. They also have, as well as Guatemala, a lot of agribusiness opportunities. In Honduras, they have factors that have like low costs, low competitive salaries. They have one of the lowest salaries in the region, and a geographic proximity to North America. The tropical climate allows for year-round agricultural production of many items, including tilapia, shrimp, sugar, cocoa, coffee, bananas, and being coffee one of their leading export products. Textile manufacturing. Honduras is the textile and apparel leader in Latin America. Many of the most important textile companies in the world have chosen and trust Honduras as a profitable and competitive investment destination in the region. They have stable legal framework that guarantees the principle of free enterprise and production incentives. And last but not least, the SEDES, the Employment and Economic Development Zone. They're modeled after libertarian principles, very much like they have in Dubai or China. The thing with the SEDES is they are authorized to establish their own policies and regulations. They can allow the country insertion in world markets under highly competitive and stable rules. They were created for the purpose of developing international financial centers, logistics centers, commercial courts, investment districts, and all of the sorts. The main benefits in the SEDES is they have their own mechanisms for dispute resolution. They are subject to a special jurisdiction and have autonomous and independent courts. They have an independent financial regime. They can use their financial income exclusively for their own purposes and can transfer some resources to the authorities in the rest of the country. They have stability in the fiscal or tributary regime. They are extraterritorial fiscal and custom zones, different from the rest of the territory. So they operate on a policy of free trade and competition. And they are authorized to establish their own systems of education, health, social security, and promotion of science. So they have added a social responsibility to the SEDES. They're currently in Choluteca, Choloma, and the Bay Islands. So it's become an interesting experiment, and I think it will flourish shortly.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. This sales part particularly was very, very interesting. Let's discuss the benefits that the nearshoring phenomenon has represented for the area. Eric, I give the floor to you.
Thank you, Mariana. Well, it is clear that the nearshoring trend is generating a lot of opportunities for Central America and Panama. As we all know, the pandemic affected very strongly global value chains and disrupted production in many industries around the world. We have also heard about the deficit of containers and the huge delays and great increases of costs for maritime transportation, just to give an example, which was just mentioned by Gabriel in the previous question. Thus, trade processes and production in general were reconfigured by the pandemic and the results of the pandemic, applying the nearshoring strategy, which, by the way, is not that new. It just became more relevant in the last couple of years because of all this COVID-19. In short, nearshoring is the decision of a company to transfer its production or supply chain to a geography closer to its target market. That's basically what nearshoring means. The disruption created by the pandemic forced companies to demand more agility, more resilience to different external factors that could interfere with its supply chain. So production costs, for example, are not that important anymore to determine where to operate. Instead, business continuity, time to market, less risks, and agility became key factors to decide where to establish operations. Typical origin markets for many products, raw materials, and services like China or India are not that attractive anymore, regardless of their low costs. So the question would be why Central America in general is an interesting region to foreign investors to apply this nearshoring strategy. Well, we have definitely several reasons. First, geographical proximity to the US, Canada, and Europe, which makes transportation and communication cheaper and faster. Second, related to the previous reason, proximity allows companies to be in a similar time zone, which was already mentioned in the previous comments by my colleagues. Third, we have free trade agreements with many countries and regions, giving preferential access to a great portion of the world's GDP. And when I say great portion, we're talking about 2/3 of the countries of the world with which we as Central America, the region, and Panama have free trade agreements. Fourth, Central America and Panama have ports on both the Pacific and the Caribbean coast, which is definitely very important. And obviously, we mentioned it before, a canal that crosses both oceans, right? And finally, some of the countries in the region are global leaders in several industries, as we have presented in the first topic of this panel. So definitely nearshoring is a great opportunity, and Central America is taking advantage of it. And we have seen already the results, as several foreign companies have already moved their operations to Central America and Panama in the last few months, coming mainly from Asian countries and other geographies. That's why we think that nearshoring represents great opportunities to foreign investors and obviously to the Central American countries. Thank you, Mariana.
That is indeed very, very interesting. And hopefully the world context, considering COVID-19 and the container shortage, together with the geographical benefits, as well as the new regulatory benefits that Central America has recently passed, as the panelists have just discussed, hopefully that makes the Central American region a nearshoring hub, you know, for big, important companies. Considering we're talking doing business, what support does each country in particular give to foreign investors? And let's begin with Gabriel to explain the Guatemalan and Honduran case. Thank you, Gabriel.
Thank you, Mariana. Regarding your question, Guatemala, let's start with Guatemala. First of all, we have a prudent macroeconomic policy framework. So we've been very stable for the last almost 80 years. We have access to international financial support and adequate business environment. In Central America, as Eric mentioned, a geographical proximity to North America. And for the region, I would say strong potential for tourism, agricultural, mining, hydroelectric and geothermal sectors. Well, with Guatemalan legal structure that promotes investment include provisions that recognize and protect private property rights for both national and foreign investors. This happens also in Honduras. So the law in both countries favor foreign investment on their foreign investment laws, with basically recognize an equitable treatment with nationals and people from abroad. In Guatemala, we have free trade laws, free trade zone laws, just as in Honduras, promotion for and development for maquila activity, which is highly used in Guatemala for the BPOs. That's mainly the reason that it still exists. We have an emerging law for the conservation of employment. One interesting aspect is renewable energy law. It's been around since 2013 and offers and grants tax benefits to companies that develop energy projects with renewable sources. Having that renewable energy sources are very well received and perceived in Guatemala and abroad. And we also have a national tourist promotion law, which can organize tourist areas with national territory, and depending on if someone wants to establish in one of those zones, they can have tax breaks and tax incentives in that region. Regarding Honduras specifically, they have, well, a law for promotion and protection of investments. They have partial exemptions and income tax stability contracts that you can sign with the state. And it created the National Investment Council, which is the entity that promotes the facilitation for the opening and expansion of businesses, assistance to investors, and of some of the other needs they have during and after establishing an investment. As I mentioned, free trade zones, the law establishing industrial processing zones for exports, and temporary import regimes. So basically, those are the ones that have in Guatemala and Honduras.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. Now I'll give the floor to Eric to talk about the Costa Rican and the Panamanian case. Eric, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mariana. Well, starting with Costa Rica, and as I mentioned before, the main competitive advantage Costa Rica has to attract foreign direct investment is its well-prepared, educated, multilingual workforce. But nevertheless, it has other incentives and benefits that are very attractive to foreign investment. First, the free trade zone incentives and tax benefits granted to companies investing in the country. We will talk about this in more detail in another panel later today. Second, the recently approved Digital Nomads Law to attract workers and remote service providers of an international nature, opening the possibility for foreigners to work from Costa Rica. I'm sure everybody has heard about the digital nomads and this trend of people, since you can work virtually, you can work from everywhere. And basically what you need is just a very good connection to internet. And definitely, instead of being inside an office, it's much nicer to be at the beach, right? Working from there. So that's a very interesting benefit in Costa Rica with this new law that was enacted. Third, Costa Rica has 58 free trade agreements with many countries and regions, including Canada, as we mentioned, first generation free trade agreement, as was mentioned in the first panel. We have a free trade agreement with China, with the European Union, with Mexico, United States, Chile, Korea, many countries. Fourth, there are no restrictions on capital flows in or out of Costa Rica, nor on portfolio investment in publicly traded companies, but companies obviously are subject to local taxes. Fifth, with very few exceptions, foreigners can own property with no title restriction. Six, Costa Rica recently became a member of the OECD. It was mentioned in the first panel as well, confirming not only the great investment climate it has, but also the best practices it complies with. And seventh, which was also mentioned in the first panel, the Costa Rican Investment Promotion Agency, CINDE, supports foreign investors in its needs to establish and operate in the country. CINDE has been very successful for almost 40 years. Next year is going to be the 40th anniversary, to the point that it has been ranked as #1 investment promotion agency in the world, both by the United Nations and the World Bank. CINDE provides all kinds of services to foreign investors when making their investment decision, including site selection, market research, country information, networking with local providers, etc. So these are definitely many benefits that are offered by Costa Rica to foreign investors. With regard to Panama, it recently created a new secretary for the promotion of the investment. Specifically on April 5th, of this year, 2021, a law was enacted creating a new exports and investment promotion agency. The main goal of this new body is to promote and facilitate new investments in Panama, both from foreigners and from nationals. This agency serves as lead contact in assisting investors in all matters that are necessary from the public sector to make an investment happen, including obtention of permits. The attraction of investments and support for the promotion of exports are definitely priority activities for the internationalization of Panama's image and the optimization of the quality of the services, in addition to the application of best practices that allow the country to achieve transparency and investment. And as I indicated at the beginning of this panel, Panama also has several incentive laws that provide tax and immigration benefits to foreign investors. And finally, Panama is clearly a very agile and business-friendly destination for investors. Thank you, Mariana.
Thank you, Eric. Let's discuss then El Salvador and Nicaragua with Mario Dalla.
Thank you, Mariana. Okay, in the case of El Salvador and Nicaragua, we have several laws that support the development of foreign investment. These are the investment law. Both El Salvador and Nicaragua have an investment law that facilitates the registration of foreign companies and guarantees foreign investors the transfer abroad of funds related to their investment. In the case of Nicaragua, this law also guarantees foreign investors free currency conversion and protects intellectual property matters. We also have a law on free zones and commercialization, which regulates the operation of free zones in El Salvador and Nicaragua, respectively, which, as we all know, free zones are zones with a really attractive tax incentives. In El Salvador, we also have an international service law. Its purpose is to regulate the establishment and operation of parks and service centers, which are dedicated, among other things, to activities about international distribution, logistics, call centers, repair and maintenance of aircrafts, business processes, and BPIOs, which are services of outsourcing. This law also develops tax incentives for foreign investors. In Nicaragua, they have a law of temporary admission for inward processing export facilitation, which allows the entry of goods into national customs territory and the local purchase of goods and raw materials without paying any tax or fee. And also, in El Salvador, we have a law of legal stability for investments. The purpose of this law is to guarantee legal stability to both national and foreign investors in the tax, customs, and immigration areas through the implementation of legal stability contracts. As you can see, there is a fairly strong, robust legal framework in El Salvador and in Nicaragua on the subject of investment, which I consider that is something very positive. And to sum up, these regulatory bodies promote and guarantee foreign investments to contribute to the economic and social development of the country, protecting the legal stability of investors in tax, customs, and immigration areas. Also, in the case of El Salvador, we have the support of the Export and Investment Promotion Agency of El Salvador, PROESA, which is the official entity of our country that works for the support and development of investment in the country. Additionally, and finally, El Salvador is member of several international treaties, agreements with 42 countries in America, Asia, and Europe, such as the Free Trade Agreement in America, the Central American Common Market, and the Association Agreement between Central America and the European Union in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. I guess that to sum up the responses to this question, the support that the governments are giving to investors are the creation of free trade zones, definitely. The creation of new laws and new regulatory frameworks, which not only promote technology, but also which help investors settle and navigate the systems, right? And third, the creation of these investment promotion agencies. And that leads me to the next question from the audience, which is particularly who are the regulatory entities in charge of promoting foreign investment in each Central American country? And what are the legal qualifications to qualify as an investor?
Well, maybe I can start.
Yes, wonderful.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll start with the case of Costa Rica. Costa Rica has two main bodies or entities that help or support foreign trade, which are very related to the Ministry of Foreign Trade. We have first Procomer, which is the Promotion of Exports Agency. It's an entity part of the Ministry of Trade, or works together with the Minister of Trade for the promotion of exports to other countries, and helps local producers export and research on potential markets in the world in general. The other entity we mentioned already is CINDE, which is the Investment Promotion Agency, which on the other side attracts investment to Costa Rica. CINDE is not part of the government. It's an entity that it's a private NGO, non-political. It was created, this is a strange story because usually investment promotion agencies are part of the government, but in Costa Rica, it is not. This entity is not part of the government and has been in operation, as I mentioned before, for almost 40 years, which attracts foreign investment. Those are the two main entities that have relationship with foreign trade, right? With regard to requirements for foreign investors to take into account, well, it depends really if they are going to set the operation within a free trade zone or outside the free trade zone. In many cases, there are, and this is going to be presented in more detail in the next panel, but about tax issues, but usually there is a minimum investment requirement. Once again, it depends, the amount depends on where they are going to establish the operation and sometimes the specific sector or industry. And second, the second typical requirement is minimum employment generated or to be generated by that investment, because that's part of what the governments in general try to get. In other words, government give you, foreign investor, tax benefits and other benefits, but you give me back the creation of jobs, right? And together with the investment itself. In Panama is kind of similar, and the main entity is the one that I mentioned already, this Exports and Investment Agency that was recently created in April of this year. And it works mainly, as I just explained, for Costa Rica. Panama has a very interesting advantage. I mentioned before in the previous question that it's a very agile and investors-friendly country. Panama has the ability to approve laws and regulations very easily to adapt to the special circumstances. And that's definitely something that attracts and allows foreign investors to recognize very important opportunities in the country. So that's basically in the case of Panama. In general, just to add, not about requirements to be taken into account by foreign investors, but how to set up a structure. Well, we're going to present in this event not only the business opportunities as we're talking, but the tax issues that are related to those investments are very important issues to be taken into account by an investor when considering operating abroad. And second, definitely there are immigration issues, very important, because usually many of these companies send expats to those countries to operate. So those are two main issues that are going to be presented very soon in the next panels of this event.
Thank you, Eric. We're actually adding in the chat the names of the agencies and the link to their webpage just for the audience to be able to navigate it more easily. Mario, maybe you can explain to us the name of the agency and the requirements to be considered an investor for El Salvador?
Perfect. Yes, Mariana. In the case of El Salvador, the regulatory entity is the National Investment Office, ONI, which is a dependency of the Ministry of Economy of El Salvador. This office is in charge of facilitating, centralizing, and coordinating the government procedures that, in accordance with the law, the investments law, national and foreign investors must follow regarding the requirements to be considered as a foreign investor in the National Investment Office. It also depends of specific considerations of each case, but according to the Article 17 of the Regulation of Investment Law of El Salvador, a request, an application must be submitted to the Ministry of Economy, along with other information, among which the most relevant, I can say right now, are the economic activity to be exercised, the amount to be registered. An important aspect is that not less than $12,000 has to be the amount to be considered as an investor here in El Salvador and to be considered for the law of investment, and the origin of foreign exchange income. That'd be all from El Salvador. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Gabriel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, man. Well, it's very similar in Guatemala and Honduras. In both countries, we only have programs or centers that are sponsored or run by the government. In Guatemala, it's PRONACOM. It's the National Competitivity Program. And in Honduras, we have the National Investment Council. These programs or councils, their main goals is providing legal services to facilitate, accelerate, and protect private, national, and foreign investments. They can navigate and help you ease administrative procedures because they differ within all the countries. They offer relevant information of the local legal framework and economic financial advice as to which laws, as stated before, and we'll see in the next panel regarding tax incentives or any other promotion that the laws contain. Regarding what constitutes foreign investment, it's very the same. It depends on what the activity will be, because certainly there are, as in any other country in the world, there are activities that are not doable or plausible for foreigners. Voting in Central America, it's usually owning property within several kilometers from the border, and so it depends on the activity, it depends what you have to do, but usually it comes to the final beneficiary, and you do not have to reveal that only to your bank. So it'll be a case-by-case scenario on that, Mariana.
Thank you, Gabriel. And I think we're still missing the answer for Nicaragua regarding the Nicaraguan Promotion Agency. I don't know if Mario, you want to address that?
I believe I can have some help from Andres. I don't know if he's here and listening.
I think we do have Andres here. Andres Cuadra is partner of Sfera Legal Nicaragua, excuse me. And he's gonna tell us about this promotion agency, investment promotion agency in his country, as well as the requirements to be considered an investor in Nicaragua. Andres, welcome. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Mariana. Hello, everyone. Nicaragua, as well as the other countries, has a promoting investment agency. It's called Pro Nicaragua. We will send you the link for their page soon. I think Mariana already has. Nicaragua also has an adequate legal framework for the protection of foreign investment with the law for promoting foreign investment, and then there are other incentives and different laws such as the free trade zone laws and the law for investment in tourism. There are others. I'm just mentioning these two to give you guys an example. The Ministry of Incentives for Industry and Commerce is in charge of certifying the foreign investor as such. And once certified, a foreign investor may enjoy the investment incentives that are granted by the law for the promotion of foreign investment. Thank you, Mariana.
Thank you, Andres. And we have another question from the audience, and we're running out of time, so I would appreciate if you could all be brief with this answer. And is, are there any other Central American countries who have shown signs of interest in following El Salvador's example with regards to approving Bitcoin as a legal tender? So maybe we can start off by Eric.
Thank you, Mariana. Yes, this is a very interesting question, and definitely the trend, not only in Central America, but in many other countries. With regard to Costa Rica and Panama, I will answer because the answer is the same, so I will answer it together. In both countries, there are bills of law that are being under discussion and analysis in the local Congress, but they have not been approved. That means that both Costa Rica and Panama do not have yet specific regulations on Bitcoins, nor not authorizing the Bitcoin, nor prohibiting the Bitcoin. And that's why in the practice, even without regulation, many commerces and industries are already starting to accept the Bitcoin. So it's basically in practice operating in both countries because there is no specific prohibition to do so, but there are no specific regulations. So we're in the process of getting those regulations approved.
Thank you, Eric. Gabriel, how about the Guatemalan case and the Honduran case?
The Guatemalan case is a little bit more, I'll go with it in a couple of seconds. Honduras, they already have ATMs for changing and receiving Bitcoin. So they've been a little bit more aggressive than Guatemala. There's no discussion in Congress of any law or anything else. So as long as it's not banned, just as Eric stated, people may receive it. The discussion goes, I think discussion goes that El Salvador has it as a legal tender. You know, the other countries, it's not considered a tender, maybe it's considered a good or services, just as the European Central Bank or the Japanese Central Bank have stated. So I think the central banks in the rest of Central America are cautious, especially in Guatemala, because they boast on their macroeconomic stability. So I think they'll see what happens in El Salvador and they will follow suit, being that good or bad, because you can see what worked and what didn't, but you're late to the party, if you like to call it like that.
Thank you, Gabriel. That was very clear. Well, I guess our time is up. We did not have a chance to answer absolutely all of the questions from the audience. Nevertheless, please pay attention to the messages that we will send you to all registered attendees after the event with answers to those other questions and further information on the subject. It was quite a panel indeed. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Mario. And thank you, Gabriel, for your input. And thank you to the audience as well.